think we've got a few more people, so we might commence. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Erin Davidson, Program Manager Visual Arts here at Creative Australia, and joining me on screen is Michelle Newton, Head of Visual Arts. We form part of the core team here at Creative Australia, who'll be working on the Venice Biennale program for 2028. I'm joining this online conversation from the unceded lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, a place where I have the privilege to live safely, learn freely, and practice solidarity. Creative Australia recognises the unique place held by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the original owners and custodians of the lands, waterways across this beautiful and diverse continent. We also acknowledge the enduring cultural practices of caring for country and cultivating cultures undertaken by First Nations peoples and elders. At Creative Australia, non-Indigenous staff benefit every day from working with First Nations staff who share their capacity so generously. For all of this, I pay respect to elders past and present, and I extend this acknowledging of First Nations sovereignty to the lands that you're joining us from across this continent, and also acknowledge the First Nations peers joining us in this virtual space today. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I'll kick off things just with a little agenda and some housekeeping. You can access the live captions directly in the Zoom window by toggling on and off the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen. You can also see that we are joined by Auslan interpreters today. Thank you both. It's lovely to have you here. This information session will last about 45 minutes. And today, Michelle and I will provide an overview of Creative Australia's call for artistic proposals for the Australia Pavilion at the Venice Biennale 2028. We'll begin with some context about the opportunity and the role of Creative Australia as commissioner and producer of Australia's participation. Michelle will speak about what we are looking for in an artistic proposal and the qualities that underpin a strong application. We'll then step through the stage 1 expression of interest process, including the assessment criteria, the required support material, and key considerations for developing a proposal. Finally, we'll open the session for questions. Throughout today's webinar, you can submit questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window. We encourage you to submit these questions as they arise. Where possible, we'll respond during the dedicated Q&A part of the session, and any questions we cannot address may help inform future frequently asked questions and applicant support materials. If there are areas that we don't touch on or don't cover today, we invite you to get in touch with the team via our email, which will be just popped into the chat right now. It's venice@creative.gov.au. The application process takes place across 2 stages. Stage 1, which is currently open, is an expression of interest. Applicants are invited to present a proposal that outlines their exhibition concept, artistic vision, and team. Following assessment, up to 5 applicants will be shortlisted and invited to develop a detailed proposal for stage 2. Shortlisted applicants will receive support to further develop their proposal before the final assessment. The guidelines have now been shared in the chat as well, and we encourage everyone to read them carefully before submitting an application. I'll now hand over to Michelle.
Thanks, Erin, and welcome everyone. I'm also joining today from the Gadigal lands of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. For more than 70 years, Australia's participation in the Venice Biennale has provided a major international platform for Australian artists to engage with new audiences, contribute to global contemporary art conversations, and present ambitious new work at one of the world's most significant cultural events. Creative Australia is both the commissioner and producer of Australia's participation at the Venice Biennale. Our role is to commission, support, and deliver the presentation in the Australia Pavilion, working in close partnership with the selected artistic team over an 18-month period. For the Venice Biennale in 2028, we have committed to a selection process that is transparent, fair, and rigorous. And it's important to us as the Venice project team, and more broadly, Creative Australia, to rebuild the confidence and the trust of the visual arts community. And a key part of this step has been to strengthen the commissioning process and to maintain a clear focus for the future. Our approach is to make the process clearer for applicants and ensure robust governance at every stage. The guidelines for the Venice Biennale selection process have been updated to provide greater clarity about the assessment criteria and the application requirements, which we'll go through in the session. And the guidelines can also be found on our website. And again, just reiterating what Erin said, we encourage you to email us at venice@creative.gov.au if you have any questions. So as we look ahead to 2028, we thank you for your continued and dedicated support for this year. And we look forward to supporting the work of Australian artists with local and international communities and a collaborative future that reflects the strength and resilience of the Australian arts sector. The opportunity now open is an invitation to propose a compelling and concise exhibition concept for the Australia Pavilion. We are looking for artistic proposals that are ambitious, grounded in strong artistic and curatorial rigour, and relevant to contemporary conversations in Australia and internationally. We're particularly interested in ideas that respond thoughtfully to the context of the Venice Biennale, the spatial conditions of the Australia Pavilion, and the audiences who will encounter the work over the 6-month exhibition period. We encourage proposals from across the breadth of contemporary visual arts practice. This can be everything from painting, drawing, sculpture, performance, video, and sound art. We are agnostic about the medium, and the key point is that you have a track record of exhibition making and exhibiting your work in a contemporary art context. This is an opportunity to imagine what Australian contemporary art can contribute to an international context. So again, we encourage bold thinking, rigorous ideas, and ambitious proposals that will resonate in the pavilion. And importantly, don't self-select. We also encourage artists and curators from a broad range of experiences and perspectives to consider applying. I'll hand back to Erin.
Thanks, Michelle. I'd like to now provide a brief overview of the Stage 1 application requirements. The purpose of Stage 1 is to introduce your artistic proposal clearly and concisely. This is not a detailed exhibition proposal, nor are you expected to resolve every production or presentation detail at this stage. We are looking for compelling exhibition concepts that demonstrate a strong artistic vision and a clear rationale for why this proposal is relevant, timely, and meaningful within the context of the Venice Biennale. Proposals may focus on the presentation of a single artist or multiple artists. Similarly, a proposal may involve one curator or co-curators. The only requirement is that the artistic team must include at least one artist and one curator, and noting that the same individual cannot undertake both roles. The application itself is relatively straightforward. Applicants are asked to provide a proposed title, an artistic proposal of up to 1,000 words, information about the proposed artistic team, and the required support material. When developing your submission, we encourage you to think about 3 core questions. What is the proposal? Why is it important now? Why is this artistic team best placed to realise it? These questions sit at the heart of the 3 assessment criteria and can help guide the way you frame your application. We encourage you to please refer to the guidelines as there are specific requirements for the support material, which forms an important part of the assessment process and will help the panel better understand both the proposal and the experience of the artistic team. There are 3 mandatory components. First, your CV. This is for the artist or artists and curator or curators, which should demonstrate relevant experience, exhibition history, and previous achievements. Second, examples of previous work, which provide insight into the practice of the artist or artists involved. And the third, indicative visuals of proposed new work. This is a new requirement for 2028, and the process is designed to help applicants communicate the intent and direction of the proposal at a very early stage. These visuals can take many forms. They may be drawings, sketches, photographs, collages, diagrams, material studies, or other visual approaches that help communicate the concept. They don't need to be resolved renders. We encourage applicants to use the format that best supports their way of working and representative of their practice. Please be creative. Lastly, letters of support. Please include a letter of support from galleries, gallerists, and/or employers, if applicable. This means an in-principle letter of support from your representing galleries or gallery and employers, where applicable, confirming their support of you and acknowledging the time commitment and resources required to deliver an international presentation of this scale, as well as any additional information that you believe may be relevant. If you are not affiliated with a commercial gallery or employed independently, you do not need to submit this letter. Please ensure that all support material follows the formatting and submission requirements outlined in the guidelines, as these form part of the eligibility requirements. Applications will be assessed on 3 assessment criteria. Michelle will expand on these.
So as Erin said, a strong proposal should show a clear artistic concept and rationale, relevant experience, and an understanding of the context of the Venice Biennale and the Australia Pavilion. If you have a compelling idea and with the capability to develop it further, we encourage you to consider applying. When preparing your proposal, you should think less about responding to individual bullet points and more about presenting your vision for the project. You'll have 1,000 words to express what you think is most relevant, along with the indicative images in the support material. It's really an opportunity for you as visual artists to stretch here. The stage 1 application is assessed against 3 criteria. The first is quality. This considers the strength of the artistic vision and the rationale behind the proposal. Industry advisors will look at the quality of the concept, the clarity of the ideas being proposed, and the extent to which the project demonstrates ambition, innovation, experimentation, and artistic rigor. They will also consider the artist's track record, critical acclaim, and this could be nationally and/or internationally, and contribution to contemporary art practice. The second is viability, and this is about the capacity of the artistic team to realise their proposal. Advisors will consider the experience, skills, and suitability of the artist and curator, and if the proposal demonstrates an understanding of what it takes to deliver an exhibition of this scale and complexity. The Venice Biennale is also a unique professional environment, and while it offers significant opportunities for international visibility and exchange, it can also be intensive and sometimes an isolated working environment. We also encourage applicants to consider their capacity to engage across cultures, build professional relationships, and sustain the project over a long development and exhibition period. You should demonstrate the experience, adaptability, and collaborative approach required to work effectively within this context. The third is alignment, and this considers the proposal's relevance and resonance within contemporary art discourse. Advisors will look at how the proposal engages with current artistic and cultural conversations in Australia and internationally, and if the work demonstrates a striking contemporary relevance. Across all 3 criteria, assessors are ultimately looking for a proposal that presents a strong artistic proposition and a compelling case for why this work, this artistic team, and this moment belong together. I'll hand back to you, Erin.
Thanks, Michelle. When developing your proposal, it's important to consider the specific context in which the work will be presented. The Australia Pavilion is one of 29 national pavilions located within the Giardini and forms part of a broader international conversation across the Venice Biennale. The pavilion has a presence within the Giardini, but is tucked away. We encourage you to consider the pavilion's context, architecture, position, and how that shapes how audiences will come to encounter the work. Denton Corker Marshall designed it as a white box within a black box. It's been designed to be a neutral palette for exhibitions to be presented within. And we encourage applicants to consider not only the artwork itself, but how the exhibition concept responds to the spatial conditions of the pavilion, its physical characteristics, and the experience of visitors moving through the space. The successful artistic team will have access to the internal gallery space and selected external areas, including the entrance deck. You can propose offside components for your presentation, but we really encourage you to focus on the pavilion as the central presentation space, as these other iterations will have budget and permission restrictions. At the base build, the gallery space is white, with a total ceiling height of just under 5 meters. The gallery dimensions are almost square at 14.9 by 15.9 meters, with a total floor area of about 236 meters squared that you can work with. The pavilion plans and reference images included in the guidelines are intended to support this early thinking. More technical and detailed information will be provided to shortlisted applicants in stage 2. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Erin. One of the most important things to remember is that this is a large-scale international commissioning project where an artist and a curator will represent Australia at the Venice Biennale. The strongest proposals will not only develop a compelling artistic vision, but also an understanding of how audiences might engage with the work throughout the Biennale. The pavilion welcomes a diverse audience across the Biennale period, and this includes artists, curators, museum directors, collectors, studios, tourists, and members of the public. So when developing your proposal, consider not only the artwork itself, but the audience experience. Think about how people might encounter the work, how the work will operate over the many months, and what makes it meaningful and engaging within an international context. The Australian Pavilion is not simply a container for the work. It is an important part of the opportunity. So we encourage applicants to consider the pavilion as both a physical and a conceptual site. The guidelines also encourage artists to think about accessibility, sustainability, as well as the audience engagement from the early stages of concept development. These considerations are increasingly important elements of exhibition making and form part of the broader vision for Australia's participation in Venice. And finally, the successful artistic team will work closely with Creative Australia throughout the development and delivery process. This collaboration extends beyond the exhibition itself to include the publication, public programs, PR and communications, fundraising and events, and stakeholder engagement. The scale of support is significant, and so too is the commitment required. So we encourage applicants to consider how you, as the artist and curator or co-curators, will work together over this period and how you'll engage with the broader opportunities and the responsibilities of representing Australia at the Venice Biennale. So now we have time for the Q&A. And
I'm logging in right now. And one of the first questions we have here, is the application only open to visual arts? How about multi-model art?
I think we can answer that and addressed it early up front, in that, we're agnostic in terms of the medium, and really it's about having a track record in terms of a contemporary art context and having exhibitions over the last period of exhibiting as an artist. So again, we're just really open to all applications, and thinking about how the work itself may operate within the pavilion. Erin, maybe if you answer the second question. An individual artist cannot apply, right? You have to collaborate with a curator. Apologies.
Yes, I can confirm that. So, individual artists with a curator. So, it is an artistic team that we're looking for. But this can be made up of multiple artists and multiple curators. But it just refer to the guidelines in terms of how best to include support material to support your artistic team and your vision.
Mhm.
Uh, I've got one for you, Michelle. Can you please expand on what you mean by employer?
Mhm. This is relevant, potentially relevant for both artists and curators, depending on if you have an employer or a formal employer. But I would say if you work full-time, if you work part-time, we obviously just want a letter of support and in-principle support from your employer to say they understand the time and commitment required to participate in the Venice Biennale. So if you're, yeah, I guess engaged in terms of salary and wages in some form on a regular basis, then we're just keen to know that your employer is endorsing your application.
Excellent.
Maybe, Erin, I'll throw this one to you. You mentioned that it can be multiple artists and curators. This hasn't really been the case previously. Can you talk about this and if there is a preference?
Absolutely. Yes, I just touched on that. So, absolutely welcome applications from multiple artist curators. It hasn't been the case in the past that that's the artistic team's been made up of, but I think looking at biennales and exhibitions across the world and the way things are working, the people are working in curatoriums, they are working with support teams, studios. So, I think the best way to approach it is that if you are working as part of a team, that it is really clearly identified within your application who is the artist, who are the curators or are artists if there are multiple, and just again support material such as CVs. It's a maximum of two per artist per curator. No, don't need to go into detail of studio teams at this stage, but definitely really make it very clear who are the group that make up an artist and curator artistic team.
Maybe I'll pick up this question, Erin, too. Again, it's sort of building on the last question around, I guess, art forms, types of works, mediums, etc. What if your medium doesn't lean towards the traditional exhibition, but say performances within other contexts? I would say, again, if performance is your medium, then really thinking about what that might look like within the pavilion. It's an exhibition that operates over 6 months. And so we have many people, thousands each week, thousands of people streaming through the pavilion on a weekly basis. It's never empty throughout that entire 6 month period. So you really need to think about, what will people see when they enter the pavilion as a space, thinking about performances durational, like how will you activate the pavilion throughout that period? And I think is really the key question here. Um, and we're really open to thinking about what other contexts may look like. But again, how does performance operate within a broader exhibition or a space over time? Erin, what if I throw this one to you? What is the time expected on the project during development and then for install?
Excellent. My favorite area of expertise. So it varies. It will work closely with the appointed team to ensure that there is adequate time. It will depend on what is produced both locally here in Australia, what needs to get across to Venice, or what is being produced in Venice. So it will have a bit of a sliding scale, but we'll pretty much start work with the selected team from inception and go through that 18-month period. For install in particular, we work on probably about a month installation in Venice, but again, it will depend on the nature of the work itself and what it's required.
Mhm. I like this one's an easy one. Can artists have collaborators that are not Australian? I think the answer is yes. It'll just be important, in the application process to highlight why those collaborators are crucial to the project.
I've got one for you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Can independent galleries, which works with multiple artists and curators, apply with a good proposal?
It's a good question. I guess I'm curious what an independent gallery might look like. But I would say refer to the guidelines. We do say curator or co-curators. Um, and so, and it can be an artist, it can be an individual artist, it can be a collective, it can be a group. It can have multiple configurations, but I guess the key answer is that we do accept applications from co-curators. So if it is an independent gallery, like to really think about what that looks like.
Well, I can answer this one, Michelle. Will there be staff looking after the exhibition, and would they be able to reset the show once a week? Excellent question. Yes, we have an amazing cultural mediators program that is building strength to strength. So it's made up of both Australian mediators as well as local Italian attendants. So we work closely with them and the selected team to go through what the requirements are, if it's daily, weekly, monthly of the exhibition, with the artist and curator. So we would love to be able to, extend their practice, extend how the pavilion is used through the exhibition. So absolutely, we work closely with how the look and the feel of the exhibition is once it's up and running on the daily with a successful team.
I might answer this question. How strict is the definition of curator? Could someone who has closely programmed, cultivated your work, for example, be an artistic director or a creative producer, be applicable? Again, I think refer to the guidelines. We are looking for people with history in exhibition making, and in particular, also publishing and writing. A key part of the project is a publication, and the curator is expected to write at least 1,500 words. So this is something we will be looking at in terms of a track record and a history.
Actually, just continuing on that thread, Michelle, what support material do you want to see from the curator side of things? Anything other than a CV and a letter from an employer?
Yeah, at stage one, that is all we're asking for, is a CV and a letter of support from your employer. There was an earlier question associated with that.
The EOI?
Oh, yeah. Actually, is the track record of collaboration inside the team an important in the assessment? If the team is collaborating for the first time for this application, again, I think, we are looking for sort of evidence of collaboration. It's not a deal breaker. We just want to see that both the artist and curator or co-curators has a demonstrated track record across exhibition making. But I do think a relationship is crucial given the length of the project. It's really having, I think, a relationship with the artist. There's sort of intangible sort of elements of that relationship, such as trust, that is so crucial in the development of the work. You're going to have critical conversations at times, tough conversations. So I think having that trust and rapport and working, in a working relationship is actually critical to actually being able to develop the work over the period of time. And as we said, it can also be quite intensive in terms of both like the intellectual and physical labor required to develop the work throughout the 18-month period, as well as the install. So I think you need to ensure that your relationship is robust.
Very good. Oh, a fun one. Is there a theme already set it up? Is there already a theme for 2028, like this year was in minor keys?
La Biennale have not yet announced the curator, so stand by. We're also keen to hear what the theme is.
Absolutely. I can probably speak to this one, Michelle. Can you speak on the recce visit outlined for the successful applicants and the process more broadly? Yeah, we'll work closely with the successful team and within your time schedule to make sure that you have an opportunity to visit the pavilion well before very early in the piece, we will say, after being announced. So it can take many shapes. It's ideally the two of you together or the group together or a few, but to get a real sense and a feel for the pavilion, particularly if you haven't been before. And we'll support that travel and ensure that you land softly over in Venice, working very closely with our many stakeholders that we have long relationships and key relationships with over there, including the fabulous Diego, who has a almost 30-year history with us in the pavilion, and also our local contractors and those that we may need to engage for specifically for your project.
I can answer this question. Can an artist only be associated with one EOI? Likewise, can a curator only be associated with one EOI? I would say our flux system in which you'll submit your application, invariably an artist will submit the application. So you are limited as an individual artist to submit. But of course, you could be submitting as part of a group under another person's name. A curator can potentially be associated with many applications, but I kind of think it's an opportunity to pick your mark, whether you are an artist and a curator, and to choose one opportunity rather than hedging your bets across many. But it's totally up to you to decide what you do. I would also say we've got more time for questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask them now. Erin and I think we're finally warming up on the question front, so we can take a few more, and we do have time. Erin, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah,
If the
absolutely.
artist can't travel twice due to illness or ability or age, would a curator site visit with the artistic team be okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll work with you and your team of who's best and best place to travel. Of course, making things safe and comfortable for everyone involved. So that's absolutely possible. We actually do a lot of things remotely too, because, we can't travel all the time. So there is a lot of time spent on Zoom and Teams planning and processing. And that's the benefit of also having such amazing stakeholders on the ground that support us in this project.
There's a question.
Over to you, Michelle.
Is there a making? Oh, great. A few more questions are coming in. Yeah, feed them in.
Keep coming.
Like as I said, we're warming up now. Is there a making fee to artist? Well, okay, I'm going to read this quickly. Is there a making fee for the artist while creating a body of work? So we do outline this on the website. So there is a fellowship or a fee, an artist fee paid to the artist of $100,000. And the curator does receive $50,000, and that is the equivalent of an artist fee and separate to the production budget, which we haven't outlined at stage 1, but we will share with the shortlisted artists. Does the artist need to have a major exhibition at an institutional gallery? And I'm assuming you're asking, does the work need to return to Australia and be part of an institutional show on return? I'm assuming that's what you're asking. And the answer is no. It's not a deal breaker in terms of the application process, but it is something we do ask you to think about in terms of ensuring the work has an opportunity for Australian audiences to enjoy at some point. And this is something that can happen, throughout the development of the project. It may happen in Venice, but it is, a consideration that we would like the artist and curator to consider.
Oh, here's one good one for you, Michelle. Does it have to be all new work? Can it be a mix of existing and new?
Okay, so yes, it's an opportunity to develop new work, but it can be iterative as well. And I would say what we want to see, as we've kind of outlined today, is that we do want to see ambition in the proposal. So it's an opportunity to kind of expand on an existing work or to reconfigure an existing work. There is another question in there about, can I restage an existing work? I don't think what we like, we want to see an expansion of the ideas and the form, the making of the work in some way. So yeah, I would say not an existing work that's already been shown in Australia that's simply going to be remounted in the pavilion, but definitely something that can be iterated and expanded upon in an exciting and ambitious way.
And just on that, Michelle, do you need to, one of the questions was a two-part, and is it necessary for artists or curators to have staged something at a large institutional space here in Australia?
Okay. If I misread your question, I apologize. I would say again, this is part of a track record, like an institutional show. I mean, that could be anything from a contemporary art space to a state museum to a university gallery, a regional gallery. We are looking for, I guess, specifically looking at mid-career and established artists who have a track record of exhibiting, not just within their metropolitan city, but, having a national, like some national visibility and potentially international visibility. But institutional can be broad in terms of its interpretation. But we are looking for, um, again, like a demonstrated track record of exhibitions in the CV for both artist and curator. Okay.
How would you say, Michelle, if you know you're ready for this opportunity?
Oh, this is almost like a Dorothy Dixer, Erin. You're just speaking to me now. Okay, so I think again, uh, it goes back to an artist track record. You're thinking about suitability, readiness. I think if you have an idea and you're sitting on an idea and you want to scale up or really kind of test the limits or really, kind of see like an idea come to life, then possibly you're at the right time to apply. But again, just to reiterate, we are looking at artists, and this can be self-identified. We're not setting the criteria, but artists who would consider themselves to be mid to established in terms of their career, who have a demonstrated exhibition history and some publishing and writing behind their work, critical writing and publishing behind their work, and similarly for the curator.
Excellent.
Great. Well, possibly we've come to the end of the questions and answers. Um, we really thank you all for joining us today and for your interest in Australia's participation in the Venice Biennale for 2028. And we really value your time and contributions. Again, we encourage you to read the guidelines carefully before submitting your applications. If there are any areas we didn't cover, then we invite you to get in touch with the team via the email, which is in the chat, thevenice@creative.gov.au. An important reminder is that the applications close at Eastern Standard Time at 3 p.m. on the 4th of August. We won't be accepting any late applications. And importantly, we look forward to receiving your proposals and reading them. So thank you for today, and we'll speak soon.